Hi, my name is Lauren Kay, and welcome to The Games That Made Me. In this podcast, we talk to the games industry's brightest talents about the games that shaped who they are and how they approach their craft. Today, we're joined by Anjali Bhimani. Anjali is an American actress well known for starring as Auntie Ruby in Ms. Marvel, voicing Symmetra in Overwatch and Rampart in Apex Legends. We're going to get on to your games. Your first one is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Which talk about like bringing yourself into it and representation and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you said you started playing it at like 8 years old.
That is correct. So when I was a little girl, my awesome, perfect brother Anish.
Always love a brother.
Oh, I can't say enough about him, about how amazing he is. But he gifted me the D&D basic set. Back when it was called the basic set, and I devoured it. You know, I took the little crayon and filled in the dice, and then I did the little adventure that you could take yourself through, and I was hooked. It was this wonderful combination of like reading a story, but also telling a story, and then being a part of that story. And all of those things were things that I already kind of wanted to do when I was a little kid. I mean, age 6, I was like writing plays for us to do in class. So I was very much wanting to be some form of a storyteller, even back then. So I devoured that. Then I totally absconded with his AD&D books and read them all cover to cover, and then started incorporating what I was learning from this world into all sorts of aspects of my life. So I did a history report on medieval weaponry that I had learned from D&D, and I won the 4th grade spelling bee because no one else knew how to spell vengeance, and
oh my gosh,
like all sorts of things where it just started to trickle into everything I was doing. Now looking back, one of the things that I think really drew me to it, and one of the things I have to thank for my sense of belonging when I was growing up, is this game. And, you know, I grew up as a little Indian girl in a predominantly Caucasian area of Southern California, and it would have been very easy for me to feel like I didn't fit in. It would have been very easy for me to feel like there wasn't a place for me. And I know a lot of people who have had that experience who grew up around where I did. But for me, I was introduced to this game at such a young age where literally you have a seat at the table. Literally, every person is creating a character that is a completely different set of characteristics, both in appearance and in terms of what they can do and what they're studying. And every single one of them has a chance to win the game for the party. Not even win the game, but to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, because D&D is not so much about winning. That's not what you're playing for. It's not like, yay, I won D&D. But that collaboration and that sense of belonging definitely gave me a sense that, yes, I was other, but I wasn't othered. I wasn't made to feel like I didn't fit in. And look, on the playground, I may have had something different happening. In class, I might have had something different happening. But because there was this foundation that I was experiencing with my friends, with my beautiful brother, like sharing this with me and us sharing it together, I think there was just a place where I could go, where I knew I, as a little Indian halfling, you know, could be the hero and could save the day. And so from a very young age, I think it became a part of who I was in a way that I didn't really clock until decades later.
Oh, I love that. And like being a halfling as well. So was that the character that you always...
No, I'm just saying that I am a halfling because
you're
I am
you're
a tiny person.
Oh, bless.
No.
What was
This
your
was
character?
this was back in the day. I was multi-class because even back then I couldn't make a decision.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's so hard to decide. But back then there were only 4 classes, so it was a little bit easier. But out of the 4, I was multi-classing in 3. So I was a cleric magic user fighter. I believe her name was something like Ayanla or Alana or something like that. I remember drawing her using like female bodybuilding magazines as like the prototype for what
she was chiseled.
She was stacked.
Built.
She was stacked and like ready to roll. And so that was my character, and she had to be human in order to be able to multi-class in all those classes.
In terms of like bringing the belonging in as well, like you can create whatever character you want. So like your name as well, like, you know, you could bring in your own, like your own life, your own learnings, your own family experiences into creating characters in Dungeons and Dragons. There's no rules.
100%. There are no wrong answers with that. You can, and provided you have a table that is a safe space and a DM who is awesome and also like a safe place for you to work with, whatever you bring to the table, they're going to find a way to incorporate it into this story. And obviously, since then, not only has it exploded in the world, but in terms of performance and in terms of sharing it as entertainment, which is a brand new thing and was a brand new thing to me when I came back to it. I should probably say before we even get into all these games, because you'll see chronologically that there is like a large gap between D&D and like the next game on the list. And that's because I went through what I like to call the dark days of gaming, where I told myself, oh, you have to have more serious pursuits and be a serious student and be a serious person. So
that's okay. We all got this.
You know, mine was a few decades. But then when I came back to TTRPGs and to D&D and saw how much they had developed in terms of storytelling, but also how much they had developed in terms of the storytellers and the way people were playing the game, all of a sudden it was 10 times more satisfying even than it had been when I was a kid. And then I was like, where have you been all my life? Why did I stop? Why did I ever stop playing this game?
I think it does happen though. You just get distracted. You feel like you need, it's like this weird thing where you need safety, but like for whatever reason, you don't seem to recognize that the thing that was providing you safety, it was the thing that you should stick with.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think it was, you know, obviously pressures from the outside world, because back then and even now, a lot of people don't understand the value of gaming. A lot of parents don't get it when their kids are playing games. There are some who totally get it, and it's awesome. And you meet them at conventions, and you're like, this is a wonderful thing to see you all sharing this together. But I think there are a lot of people who don't yet get it, which is why I'm like running around the world spreading the gospel of gaming, because you hear the negatives in the press or whatever, but people are not talking enough about the positive aspects and the benefits of gaming. And I really think especially tabletop gaming is such a unique form of storytelling that can make such a difference in people's lives. It's really, really, really special.
What was it like to be a part of a chapter of Critical Role as well?
You know, thankfully, and I feel this way about a lot of experiences that I had in my career previous to this, whether in TV or in theater or whatever. Thankfully, I did not fully understand the massive juggernaut of Critical Role when I first connected with Matt and Marisha as friends. And so when they were like, hey, you want to come play a game on Critical Role? And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. And then obviously you're like, oh, it's that. And again, you'll see a trend in my career of like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be this. Phew, thank God I didn't know, because I might have put a lot of pressure on myself. But in this case, it was just hang out with some friends and play a game and play a game where everyone at the table has sort of the same commitment to the story that I want to have in a game. I talk about this a lot, that I take my fun very seriously, and I don't take myself seriously, but I take the fun seriously. And to me, the fun is that commitment to sharing and building a world and sharing in this creation of a story that even a writer's room wouldn't have come up with. But because of the magic of the dice and improvising and working together, it suddenly becomes this beautiful, beautiful thing. And yes, you're silly at the table and all of that too. So it can be very serious. It can go from like tragic to comedic to tragic to comedic. So yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been such a joy to watch all of them. They are all such extraordinary people in their own right. And together they are such a North Star for just how to be in the world and how to take care of your friends and how to take care of your community and how to use your creative powers for the powers of good. I'm just constantly in awe and constantly rooting for them and loving what they're doing in the world. So I'm just very grateful that, you know, my dear friends also happen to be ballers who are using their superpowers for the powers of good. Like that's the only way to be in the world as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you know? Using their platform to raise other people up as well. Like, I mean, I still remember when it was just a Twitter post where they're just like, we're playing D&D tonight and look at all of us together. Huh? And it's just kind of like to see it build up and to see it, become that collaborative. It's a collaborative experience. And I think that must be such a joy to be a part of. It is also such a joy for the community to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I love watching it.
Like, it's freaking hell. It's hilarious and incredible.
Yeah, it's really special. And not just Critical Role. Like now there's so many other, like Dimension 20 is it has a completely different feel, but such an incredible group of people. And you see how both of these companies have their unique ways of doing things, even though other people might compare the two. There's no sense in that. And this is one of the biggest reasons I love the TTRPG community and the industry that is starting to burgeon around it, is that in no other medium do you see companies supporting each other. You don't see Sony and Paramount going, hey, let's do a movie together. And we're like, swap executives and we'll swap leading men and leading ladies. No, it feels very competitive in the market. Whereas, you know, Brennan's going on Critical Role and Matt's going on Dimension 20 and everybody's trying to lift up other creators and introduce new creators to the space with their shows. You know, it's very much a microcosm of how I want the world to be.
No, completely. I think that puts it perfectly. And you actually got to do one with Sam Bayer, who we've had on the show, and also Neil Newbon.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite moment from that session? Because, I mean, like, you came out full glam. Like, I'm honestly, your entrance was phenomenal.
Thank you. Honestly, I had I was going to say I had one goal, but I think as a character, I think there were two things I wanted to focus on top of, like, let's make sure the audience has a great time. One was just keep up, because you may be the straight man, so to speak, in a sea of comedy, and that's a relatively hard thing to make entertaining if you're not careful. So I really wanted to do that. And let's not forget that Abria was the DM, which means already it's going to be like, this one's going to 11. Like, it's already going to be sensational.
Her so much.
No, it's playing with her is
she's so good.
Like, she's already the chaos agent in the game when she's playing.
Yeah.
But as a DM, you just know you're up for a wild ride. But I also wanted to, knowing that they were going to be playing their characters from the game, and knowing Neil's character being, you know, very secure in himself and his sexuality, and very forward, and usually is the one making other people potentially uncomfortable before he seduces them.
A little bit thirsty.
A little bit thirsty. I very much wanted to play a character who could meet him where he was, so that we would have some kind of a tension going on there, and it wouldn't necessarily just be all about one aspect of the story. Not that he would ever do that as an actor, but, you know, let's face it, that's a kind of character that takes the space. And so finding a way to be like, cool, how are we all going to move our levels of anything around in order to make sure this story is enjoyable for the audience, and it's not just one character taking charge and going forward.
Yeah, because it doesn't work that way. Like, it just, if it is imbalanced, it's not. You can feel it. You can feel the imbalance.
Yeah, and especially if you're playing, like, when you're playing at a live event like that in front of an audience of people who are also players and DMs, you want to be an example of something, some aspect of playing that they can take home with them, right? And in home games, if there is someone, at least from my seeing it, if there is someone who's just taking it over and going forward, everybody else kind of recedes into smallness, rather than like okay, now this work, that collaborative energy is the magic of the game. And it's one of the reasons, again, if you're watching Critical Role or you're watching Dimension 20, they are masters of understanding, okay, at this moment, I'm going to be the storyteller, but at this moment, I want to make sure that that person has the space to be able to tell their story. So I'm going to serve up this question or this action, or I'm going to create this conflict or whatever. There's sort of like I don't think you need to talk about it when you know how to do it. And I think that also comes from being in a storytelling field, whether it's voice acting and animation or game performance in general with mocap or TV or film or theater. And all of them have backgrounds in more than just quote unquote voice acting, which I also wish people would just call acting, because we all have voices, but we all have to be actors first.
Yeah.
So you want to have people take home that understanding that this needs to be, it doesn't need to always be balanced, because that's boring, but there should be this wave of give and take.
Yeah.
Because that's when whatever it's going to culminate in is a victory for everyone. And that's so exciting, and that's so satisfying at the end of that adventure when that happens.
And that leads us nicely on to actually your acting career as well. So, you said you used to like write plays when you were a kid already, and obviously doing D&D is also like acting in itself. Did you do like a lot of theater when you were a kid as well, like in school?
I did. I absolutely did. But like the way I did it was the same way that like every kid does it. You're like, oh, we're doing the class play. Now we're doing the school play.
Which ones did you do?
Okay, so when I was 7, we did 2 puppet shows.
No.
Where I was the troll in the Billy Goat's Gruff, and I was the narrator in some other thing, and and then school plays, musicals, and all that. And then I started going out of school and doing community theater. So I did a production of West Side Story and Man of La Mancha and all sorts of classic musicals. And then somewhere in high school, I finally understood that, wait a minute, people, like, I could do this as my job. This could be my career, because I'd never really thought of it as an option. My parents are both doctors, although they met doing a play in medical school, so it was already in the air, in the air in our family. But it just wasn't something that I was thinking of as an option. And thankfully, my parents, also wildly supportive, basically said, "Cool, if you're going to do this, get really good at it and pay your bills.
Good.
And like, we support you 100%, but you got to treat this like a real job. Don't just be airy-fairy about it." So I went to Northwestern for theater and did a bunch of theater there in school, dance, started doing a lot of dance concerts and pretty much anything that they would let me do, which is another theme in my career. Like, if it's ethical and legal, I will do it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's curious.
Yeah.
And that's what you need as an actor, to just be curious.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to discount any form or format of storytelling just because of maybe what the world will say about it. Because that also has changed with time. So I went to Northwestern, then I graduated and just started doing plays and shows and musicals there in Chicago. And then a show that I was doing there in Chicago called Metamorphoses moved off Broadway and then to Broadway. So that's when I moved to New York, stayed there, continued doing musicals off Broadway, did another Broadway show called Bombay Dreams. And then I started doing television while I was out there. And it was a great time to be doing television. So like, my second job was on The Sopranos, like really, really fun, wonderful things that were really special to be a part of.
And that was like the time with like HBO, where they were really taking it forward. Because my favorite show is 6 Feet Under.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like the ensemble pieces that they had then with like The Sopranos as well. It's just like, it was just such a cool moment where it's just like, oh, Hollywood's actually come to TV now. Like, it's we're taking this seriously.
It was also a cool moment from behind the scenes where how do I say this? I feel like for much of my life, there were people, whether school or wherever I was hearing it, sort of saying, well, you got to pick one. You got to pick a lane and stay in it. You got to either do theater or do television. You can't do both. And that like went against every bone in my body. Like, why do I have to choose? Why can't I do all of them? Even in school, I was like, why can't I dance and do a musical and then do this and then do that? Like, why can't I?
Yeah. You only live once.
Right. Like if there's enough time in the day and I have enough energy to do it, why couldn't I do it? But at that time was when, because the TV was there in New York, it also meant that Broadway actors were getting a chance to be on stage and then go back to plays and then go back to, going back and forth. And then I even got to saw, like you shoot The Sopranos and then you go see James Gandolfini in God of Carnage with Jeff Daniels and, Marcia Gay Harden and Hope Davis, who are all film stars, right? So getting to see people doing both for me was like, well, duh, if you can, like, let's do it. So that is I think that was a nice sea change that was happening at the time as well, that continued and still continues now.
It was funny, after I saw you at the Gina Davis Institute thing, I was watching a playthrough of Modern Family. What was that like to be on Modern Family? And like, what is Ty Burrell like as well? Like,
Well, Ty Burrell, another great example, because my first day on set, when I met him, I was like, oh, I saw you in Burn This, and your performance, and Dallas Roberts were like, blew my mind. Yeah. And to be on a TV set and be able to share that experience of him doing theater. No, he and Julie are just, since I have most of the stuff that I did was with them and the family.
Because the kids were competitors,
and apparently the moms were too. But both of them so inviting and so lovely and so helpful. It was really wonderful. The whole set was really, 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 really cool, and like finely tuned machine, fast, which was great, which was really great to like have that experience of things being done so well, but quickly and efficiently. So yeah, that was really, really fun.
And now, I mean, like, you get to you've been a part of Marvel. You're a part of the Marvel universe.
Again, like, another thing where I'm like, I didn't know that was on the menu. Okay, cool. That was the experience of doing Ms. Marvel was special on so many levels. Yes, one of them being like, cool, you're part of the Marvel universe, right? But that particular story and that particular IP and that particular comic and that particular cast and crew were very, very special to me, not just because the story of Ms. Marvel is so special and so easy for the reader to connect with and the viewer to connect with, because she's just like the rest of us. In fact, she's a fan just like the rest of us are of Marvel. She's a fan of these superheroes. And but then to get to that set and for everybody to be there because they cared about it, not just because, hey, this is a big Marvel movie or TV show, but because they really cared about it. And because there was necessarily no big name on the set, and our number one on the call sheet, Iman Vellani, had never done this before, but she was brilliant and kind and cool. And so to have that, again, sense of collaboration and that sense of everybody's working together for a common goal, at the same time as getting to share a cultural experience with people that wasn't about, hey, let's tell you what it's like to be South Asian and bang you over the head with it. It was about, this is sort of the palette on which, or with which we have to paint this story. This is part of the story, but this is not the story. The story is universal. This is just how it looks when it's being told in this world. And so that level of normalization of a culture that a lot of people didn't at the time understand and still maybe don't was really, really, really special. I didn't realize until after the show came out how many people at least in the States, and the UK too, which was surprising, didn't know about the partition of India because it wasn't necessarily taught that much in school. But for someone of South Asian background, like, that's every family's got some place. They say it in the show. Every family's got a partition story, and so it was such a part of our cultural fiber. So to be able to share that, but not in a documentary style way, and not in a way that is there to shame anyone, but just a way to say this is a thing. This is a thing that happened, and this is how it affects this story. And maybe now, because people got a taste of what it was, maybe they got more curious and got a chance to learn more about it and broaden their horizons and start to understand more about the Pakistani culture and the Indian culture and so on. So
I love that. And like, I know that you've said as well, like just being the auntie.
You know,
the
here's
auntie.
the thing. I play a lot of Indian aunties, you know, and I feel like if I'm going to be the auntie, I'm going to be the cool auntie.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it's going to be, because that's who I am in real life. The only thing that separates us is that I have a different accent than Auntie. And so, yeah, Auntie Ruby was very much, she was just pure fun to play. She was a lot like my aunties growing up, where, yeah, it's not necessarily judgment so much as
it's care.
It is judgment, but it's also coming from a place of love.
It's coming from a place of caring.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a beautiful scene where you know, when the wedding is happening in Ms. Marvel, and I get to be one of the aunties who's at the wedding telling this Caucasian friend of hers, like, this is what this tradition is about, and this is what this is about, which is exactly what is happening in the real world. You know, inviting people to learn about the culture, rather than trying to bang them over the head with it, like inviting them in, I think is important.
From my family standpoint, I mean, I come from like a very Italian American family. Like, I always had a lot of people around me, but moving over here, we don't have as big of a family network. And we were talking about, like, you know, going to one of our friends who's Indian, his baby shower. We just thought it was so beautiful how much in the like sort of Southern Asian like culture is about family, is about coming together. And I think that really does come through in Ms. Marvel as well.
Yeah, the importance of family and multi-generational and like, yeah, I think that was definitely very much a focus. I love that her family is so much a part of that story. And that goes back to the original comics that Sana Amanatha and had created before she became, you know, before she created Ms. Marvel, this show, and before she hooked up with Bisha Ali and they were, you know, making this for Marvel. I think that is so close to our experience and so close to, like you said, many cultures' experience, that it is a unifying factor as well. And I hope, because this is certainly my experience of South Asian culture, I hope that when you were at that baby shower, they were also like, come, you're here, you're part of the family for the minute. Like, while you are here, you are part of this family. That is how this works. Because that to me also is a really, really special thing about several cultures, including my own. I also, I probably would have talked about this later in terms of the other games that we're going to be talking about, because it is definitely a through line for me. But, you know, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, right? And for me, it's not about seeing one of everything or necessarily seeing a thing represented. Inclusion is being included. And part of that, it has to go both ways. If I come to a situation where someone doesn't know about my culture and I'm like, why don't you know about my culture? What's wrong with you? That doesn't invite them in. It doesn't make it a safe space. It doesn't make it a place where someone will want to know more about it. If anything, they just will back away. You know, at best for fear of screwing something up, but at worst for, you know, being angry or antagonized by it. Whereas if I say, hey, come play at my party, come play at my table, like we do on Desi Quest, where we're playing D&D, but in a South Asian inspired fantasy world, right? Come play at my party. Come sit at my table. It's okay if you mess up the terms. It's okay if you don't know how to dress. We'll take care of you. We'll do it with you. We will help you understand more of this culture so that you don't feel so separate from us and realize how much more similar we are than different.
So now getting on to like video game acting, you know, like just providing voices for characters. When did you initially start like thinking like this could be a turn for you? Was it something where you had an opportunity that you were like, okay, let's go for it? Or was it something that you were already like kind of curious about?
It was, again, like every new medium I was working in, it was an opportunity to audition came up, and I did not like saying no to things that I had no reason to say no to. In fact, this audition is the audition for Overwatch, or my audition for Overwatch, for me is such a great story to share with other actors because it's why you don't discount yourself before casting does. So when the audition came in, my husband is in a band, Vintage Trouble, and it was the final night of their tour up in Islington. And we were leaving for sound check, and we knew that it was going to be a long night and that we were basically going to stay up all night because of where we were going to have to go as part of the tour. And 7 o'clock in the morning, I was going to have to head to the airport. The audition came in as we were leaving for sound check. So I'm like, okay, if I want to do this audition, the only way I'm going to be able to do it is when we get back to the room before I leave at 7 o'clock in the morning at like 6:30. And so we have a long night and get everything done that we need to get done. And I am exhausted and it's 6:30 in the morning and I tell him to be quiet and I just talk into my phone, not even with a fancy mic. I just talk into my phone and I do the audition and I send it off. And then I'm like, okay, you did it. You did it. You did it. Whatever. Nothing's going to come of it. Blah. And then a few weeks later, I got the email from my agent that I had booked this role. And not knowing anything about it, it would have been so easy because at that point, it was a code name, so you didn't know what you were auditioning for. I don't even remember if I knew what company it was. And so it would have been so easy for me to be like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to have to skip this one. Sorry, guys. But I didn't want to discount myself. If it was something I could do, I didn't want to discount myself before someone else did. And I didn't want to say, oh, well, I'm going to give a bad audition because I'm going to be tired. No, you know what? It's not your place to judge it. It's their place to judge it. You just do it. But let them be the people evaluating the performance and seeing if it's what they want. And lucky for me, Andrea Toyas, the casting director and voice director at Blizzard, and Michael Chu and the gang liked it. And that was it. That was Symmetra. So that was kind of my entree into gaming voiceover. I had started auditioning a little bit earlier that year when my agents had started being like, hey, we want to start sending you out on these Indian accented roles. And I was like, cool, you can send me out on non-accented roles as well, but we'll get there. And they eventually did. But that was, I want to say, the second job that I booked.
What ways did it defer to like regular sort of like film acting or using your body more? Did you feel like you could use your body more? Because like obviously the mic's there. It's a bit difficult.
Yeah. Such a great question. I do think that my theater training helped a lot. And specifically also the kind of theater that I had done after school where I was maybe playing a lot of different characters in the same show. So you had a shortened period of time to really convey what that character was about and what they were going through. And so that definitely helped. Also, being the product of a field that requires you to do 8 shows a week with one day off certainly prepares you for a 4-hour session where your voice is going to be taxed. So that definitely helped. Where film and television came in helpful, and then where more popular singing as opposed to the I love that I do this because it's like a microphone. Where film and TV and singing pop rock came in was mic technique. And realizing that much like, Kiefer Sutherland on 24 can talk down here, and then all of a sudden on television it's super dramatic and awesome because he has a mic. Same thing. You can achieve certain things on film and television when there's a mic right up here and there's a camera right in your face. Okay, so we're going to eliminate the camera, but your voice can still do the same thing. And thanks to this magic little machine here, everyone's going to hear that. They're going to hear the nuances in your voice that you wouldn't be able to necessarily convey if you were in the theater. So it's different in the way all of these mediums are different in the same way that French is different from Spanish. They come from the same root language, but they are different languages, and you do need to learn the rules of each one. But if you know Spanish, learning French is a lot easier, right? So that is kind of the same thing. Like you pick pieces from each one and funnel them into the new one.
Do you feel like the way that you tackle voiceover roles is different now to when you started?
From the beginning, I recognized that the way the auditions were being presented, with not a lot of information and often not knowing what the project was that you were working on, that it's much more like cold reading, like you would do in an audition where they just hand you a script, because you may not even see the script until you're in your session because it's under NDA, and they're trying to make sure that it doesn't get leaked on the internet and all of that. So it was much more like cold reading, which to me is a benefit in that you don't have enough time to overthink it. One of the challenges that I find with theater and with television, but a little bit less, is when you have rehearsed over and over, how do you keep it fresh, right? That's a constant question people are asking about, like, wow, you've done this show for 3 years. How do you keep it fresh? Well, in voiceover, if you're getting the script right ahead of time, you just got to dive in. So it felt a lot more like the technique that I would use for cold reading, either in auditions or in classes, than necessarily the technique I would use in film or TV or theater.
Do you think like a lot of the sort of tips that you would share or advice that you would share would just come from just doing it, just practicing it? Or do you have like kind of any cheat codes or ways, things you would focus on more in order to achieve a decent cold read?
That's such a great question. I mean, honestly, and it sounds, it's such a simplistic answer, and it's annoying if you're looking for the answer, but once you have it and you see how it works, you're like, oh, no, that's the answer, and it's get out of your own way. Just play and get out of your own way. Don't stop overthinking it. Throw things in that you think of, but eliminate judgment. Evaluation, great. Eliminate judgment. There's no time for you to be like, oh, I hope that's what they want, or I don't know if they like me. There's no time for that. There's no room for that, because the creative process is so concentrated, right? You're here to play. Your job is to give them as much as you can so that they can piece together, okay, like together we're going to figure out who this character is or how they sound. Or if you're doing voices in a game where you're multiple voices, cool, let's figure out how this one sounds, but it has to be different than this one that you just did before, but you didn't know that you were going to be doing this one, so how are we going to make it different? So yeah, there's just no time. There's no time for insecurity.
No, not
at all. And I love that, because given enough time, I can overthink my way out of all sorts of things.
It really like almost takes the honesty out of the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, the insecurity? Absolutely. It also takes the service out of the moment. For me, one of the things that drives me as an actor is being of service to the people who are going to hear this story, however they're going to hear this story. Telling them, I got you, don't worry about it, I'm going to do the heavy lifting, but we are going to have this experience together. And at the end of it, your life is intact, your life is fine. You go home, everything's the same, but you've had this experience. And I did the crying, the yelling, the falling off a cliff, whatever it is. I did that for you as your vessel, as your surrogate. And that is an act of service, right? And otherwise, acting can be a very self-centered, and it can eat away at you if you're so worried about, do people like me? What do they see? All these things where it's just about like the judgment coming at you rather than an offering to other people. And it's that way in auditions too. You are hopefully solving the casting director's problem of needing to find someone for this job. But at the very least, you can give them something entertaining. So that's an act of service, of giving. And then just like any other act of service or generosity, you got to not care about the results, because that's not why you're giving. And that is easier said than done, but it is a muscle. And the more I do it, the more I realize, yep, that's exactly what it is. It's just so much easier when I'm not thinking about me.
That's nice about taking on the vessel of Symmetra in Overwatch, which is your next game. So how were you with building this character? Did you have a lot of influence?
So I was very lucky because I came in relatively early. Well, how do I say this? The art was done. She was already been drawn. They'd already been working on her for years, so that was there. But when I came in and saw her for the first time, both Andre and I, we've since talked about this, tears started to well up, because the first thing I thought was, I didn't have this when I was growing up. I didn't have anything like this. I had Wonder Woman. That's what I had. That was my superhero. That was the closest thing to me that I could see out there. And now here is this extraordinary depiction of a South Asian woman in a STEM field who's also using the arts to make her knowledge of this STEM field more powerful. And she's on the spectrum. And she happens to be a hero. All of those things combined were so unique and so special and such a beautiful example of none of us being one thing, none of us being able to be defined by one aspect of who we are. And I think that's one of the most special things to me about Overwatch. It is the characters, even though they're like, yes, there are characters from all over the world, and some people are choosing them because, okay, this character's from my country and whatever. But each one of them has so many different layers of what makes them them that it's a perfect, that to me is representation. Is showing that no, just because that character's Indian and that character's Indian, they are not the same. They are vastly different. They're different human beings, right? And so having that complexity in a character and coming to that in the beginning and being there with Michael and Andrea and Jeff Kaplan and just kind of like figuring out everything about what she was going to sound like and what she was going to feel like was just, I mean, what a gift. And Andrea is such an exceptional director because she makes it a very safe space for the actors to experiment. And she's very gentle and encouraging. God bless her. I mean, I don't know what she's saying off the mic, but on the mic, she's definitely gentle and encouraging. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a safe space to experiment with that. And since we were finding her in that moment, it was easy. It was fun and it was easy. I still had no concept of what a big deal the game was.
Yeah, I mean, 10
even
million.
even going into it, like before launch, I had no idea how big a deal the launch was. In fact, I had no idea until my husband was at a bar with a friend of his and they were talking to a group of people and he asked this girl, so what are you into right now? And she said, oh, I'm playing the beta for this video game called Overwatch. And he was like, oh, I think my girl's in that game. I think she plays, what's the name of, and she goes, tell me it's not Symmetra. Tell me it's not Symmetra. And he's like, no, I think that's her. And then her friend screamed and ran out of the room.
Love it.
And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is a big deal. And then it came out. And the way the community embraced it, as magnificent as the product was and the hard work that the developers, everybody did behind the scenes, the community grabbing it and running with it, it made it even more extraordinary. That was the continued power and fuel for the game. And it was the first time, and this is one of the reasons of the many reasons that for me it was a life changer, is that it was the first time that my passion and my purpose were completely in alignment. Because I think of your passion as your weapon of choice to achieve your purpose. It's not your job. Your job doesn't have to be your passion. And your job is certainly not your purpose. Ideally, your job is your passion or it's somewhere near it. But it is not your purpose. Something deeper has to drive you, right? And it was the first time that I could be a part of showing people the hero in themselves. Because when you identify with a hero and then you get to play as that hero, you have the joy of embodying that or hearing those things in your head, hearing those voice lines, and you can take that out in the world and you can carry that experience with you. And it's so much more interactive and empowering than necessarily watching a play or a television show, which is powerful, but in a very different way. The audience doesn't necessarily have ownership of it and agency over the story. So that was what a shift to be able to turbocharge my path that I was already on, wanting to be of service of some kind. It was such a way to turbocharge it and connect with this extraordinary community of gamers. And it wasn't just the Overwatch community, it was the gaming community at large that I was coming back to, because I was still in the dark days of gaming before Overwatch. I wasn't playing, I was kind of like hearing about it, but not necessarily a part of it, and coming back to it and connecting with these artists and fan art and cosplay and all of these amazing things that people are putting out there in creative and generous ways. I mean, it was a different life.
Yeah.
Completely different life. Plus, it gave my dad something to brag about, which was really nice because
my daughter's Symmetra.
Well, God bless my dad. He was already so proud of me. Like, he would show pictures of whatever I was doing in the, surgeon's lounge or whatever. But when Symmetra came out, he was extra proud for some obvious reasons. And then he actually passed away at the beginning of 2017. And I'm so grateful that he had a chance to see that. I still think he's, seeing everything just from a different place. But to be a part of that and to share that with him, that was really special.
Oh, that must have been amazing. You also, as Symmetra as well, you also speak a lot to the autistic community as well, which is something that I'm equal parts, very, very passionate about. My daughter's autistic, and you see a lot of places where it comes from a space that's not necessarily, that's almost in a way diminishing of what an autistic experience, what a spectrum experience is, making it condescending, making it,
othering.
Making it
othering.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Infantizing.
And
infantizing
it's the thing that it makes me so mad. There's a reason it is a spectrum.
Exactly.
Because there are vast differences between the experiences of one autistic person to another, to another, to another. And I love so much that Symmetra is a great depiction of someone who struggles with the things that she struggles with, but is aware through her life experience. And they lay this out in the comic that came out even before the game came out, A Better World. She's aware that she has these struggles, and she's aware that she is different, but she's also aware that she can do things that no one else can do. And so knowing that character could represent that kind of experience to people in this community, the level of responsibility, but grateful responsibility to that it was so special. And at the time I was also doing a play that was about a young autistic girl and her parents, kind of like, she goes on this great adventure and her mom trying to figure out what to do and how to connect with her. And
what was it called?
It was called Orange. Yeah. And so it was a 3-hander. It was just me playing all the female roles, and my friend Karthik playing all the male roles. And then there was one girl, Pia Shah, playing the girl at the center of it all. So I was the mom. I was other people reacting to her. I was her cousin, I think is how they were related. And seeing how the rest of the world interacted with her and changed their opinions and changed their experience of her through the experiences that they had with her. But in the quote-unquote real world, if you don't have one-on-one experience with someone who is on the spectrum, and if you don't spend enough time with them to understand the complexity of who they are, how are you going to really know and appreciate, right? Well, you can know and appreciate if there are depictions of that experience in the world, the same way we talk about having representation of people of different cultures. And Overwatch managed to do it across the board. We have differently abled characters. Yes, we have characters from different cultures. We have characters who have different moral and ethical choices, but all based on their history. So you see where it came from. You see the story of, it could have gone either way. They could have been a good guy. They could have been a bad guy. It could have gone either way. You see the complexity of each character, and that, how fun is that?
Oh, it's so great. It's just such a fantastic opportunity. And I'm sure, like, with fans as well, just being so grateful for it as well, to just see that come through.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I probably wasn't until Overwatch that this happened, but I really don't like the term fans as much as members of the community, because it's an engagement that we are all having together about this, centered around this thing. But I always feel a little weird when I say that, when people use the word fans, because I don't know, I've always thought of that as like fans of a rock band or fans of a sports team where we're very disconnected. But in this, we are all very much a part of the same world.
I mean, the community is playing the character. The community is who's experiencing the character.
They have ownership, and they've certainly heard my voice lines more than I have, and they know them better than I do. and they certainly know the game better than I do because I can't play first-person shooters. So bad at them.
Which is just, it's like the cruel joke of it as well. It's like when you just play, when you are a part of a game and then you're just like, yeah, but this is the game that doesn't work with my brain.
Yeah, I'm an excellent backseat driver.
Yeah. It does look so cool, though. Like,
no,
I mean, honestly.
It's beautiful. And again, it was another example of, and perhaps this existed before Overwatch, but it didn't exist in my world because I hadn't experienced it, where even if you're not playing the game, there was all this lore you could learn through the comic books and the short stories and the cinematics. They were giving us all the different ways to take in these stories and these characters so that parents could connect with their kids even if they didn't play the game, or friends or whatever. So I was deep in the lore because I was like, well, this is how I can be a part of this. And this is how I can share with the community when they come up to me and talk about the game. I'm like, cool, I can know about this because I read this. Even if I have no concept of how my console works.
Is there one quote in particular of Symmetra's that you can do for us?
There's so many that I love. I mean, the old standby that I love is "Welcome to my reality," which is basically her being like, "You're in my world now."
Yeah.
I hope I'm allowed to say that on this. But her new ultimate after, I think it was rework number 3. Yahi param vastavikta hai. I just love the power of that, and I love that it's kind of it's not contemporary Hindi. It's sort of like Shakespearean, it's closer to Hindustani, and there's just a grandness to that. I love all of the lines she does that I can use when I'm cleaning my home. Like, the true enemy of humanity is disorder. Yeah, replace, the true enemy of humanity, or the human enemy is my office because it's incredibly disordered. Or I will put you in your place, or, all sorts of stuff. I will create order from chaos. Like, she has a lot of lines that are great for cleaning and a lot of lines that are great in traffic. Like, I will open her. The path is open. I have opened the path. And then if someone's like, giving you the finger or whatever, oh, you are not meant for greatness. There's so many, like, it's such a practical set of lines.
Yeah, no, I love that. You didn't just do this with Symmetra. You also moved on to do it with Apex Legends. And now with Rampart, but Rampart is like such an interesting, like, different sidestep.
Oh, yeah,
to
they are
Symmetra.
diametric opposites. They are completely different women.
But talk about fun, though.
So much fun. And if I'm being honest with myself, as much as I want to be like Symmetra and elegant and beautiful and all that, I'm much more like Rampart, who is basically me with an Indian accent, or a British Indian accent. She's a little gal with a ponytail and a big gun who is got no filter, completely irreverent, but is, you knock her down, she's going to get back up again. And one of the things I also love about her in the context of Apex Legends is that it doesn't feel like she has a deep, dark, tragic background that we know of yet. So any kind of adversity that she has experienced has only gone into making her just like tougher. We're not watching her haunted by her past. And at that point, at least, it felt like most of the characters did have some story that was really, really painful that had driven them to become the people that they were. And much like Overwatch, where you see how these people are the product of their past, with Symmetra, one of the things that I find so inspirational about her is that she took her upbringing and her past and the difficulties that she was experiencing and used them as an impetus to create a better world, to make the world a better place, to use her powers for what she believed was good, whether or not that was accurate, whether or not she's with the right company, whatever.
They're honest to herself.
Same thing with Rampart. She is just this scrappy little gal, and I love that her primary way of communication is taking the piss out of people. It's so refreshing. It's so it creates so much levity in a really potentially dark and scary universe. So yeah, I love that about her.
So for you, what was it like creating this high energy voice for Rampart? Just literally
give me a cup of coffee and put on my tennis shoes and go. That was pretty much it. The only thing that we really needed to fine tune together was kind of the specificity of the accent and how much we would want her to sound Indian versus a little bit of British and a little, because she speaks in a lot of Cockney slang. So how much of both of those things are we going to put together? But also, this is a futuristic game that's not set in the present time. So she's not going to sound like anyone that we think of that we are seeing in our current world. So that we definitely fine-tuned based on what they had wanted to hear and what they wanted her to be.
It's
But
just Rampart accent. It's just like
just
what
Rampart.
accent is it? It's Rampart.
It's
Sorry.
Rampart. It's Rampart. But yeah, her lines are just fun. And I'm so grateful that, because I say dope a lot. And my best friend, who's also in Overwatch, Carolina, she had been like, oh God, they got to put that in the game as Symmetra. I'm like, the chances of Symmetra saying dope are very limited. But then Rampart shows up and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this chick is going to end up saying dope. And sure enough, she did. So I appreciate that they
let
threw
you
that in there.
let you work on your dope your dope vernacular.
My dream, my dope dream, which sounds a little weird given the other potential definitions of the word dope. But I will say one thing that I'm also grateful that they kept in is the laugh that she has, because 9 times out of 10 it was me laughing at myself as Rampart saying the joke. So it was genuine laughter of like, I just said something funny. Like, it's just this like little thing that I also do in real life. And I'm very grateful that that's a part of her. And the facial capture too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like with facial capture. So was this one of the first times that you did facial capture?
It was.
Yeah.
And also, this was during lockdown.
Oh
we
my
started
God.
it before COVID hit. But she was going to come out in August 2020. That was the schedule. And I think it was August, September. So we had to keep going. And they sent a rig to our house and talked me through putting it together and putting it on. And my husband had to put the little dots on my face for them to be able to track things. And I ran around the house and ran around our tiny little studio in the house, ran around pretending to jump off planes and all sorts of stuff. Because and boy, is that proof of where there's a will, there's a way. Because the fact that they made that happen during those circumstances, so cool. So cool that they did, and so necessary, because we all needed games. We needed them not just for the break from what was happening in the real world, but for the connection that we could have with people around the world, or even down the street if we couldn't see them at the time. So yeah, that was the first time I did. Well, certainly the first and probably only time I did facial capture at home. But who knows? You know. Many more years of my life, I hope. So it's entirely possible it'll happen again.
So, I mean, what you did with Overwatch really helped with Apex, did you feel?
I mean, it certainly helped in the sense that I now had the experience of doing video games and
Like
voicing this
efforts and
kind
stuff.
of game. Yeah, and voicing this kind of game where you go into session and there's a slew of lines and you're going to do 3 of each. And if they want more, they'll have you do it again. But your context is basically what they are telling you in the moment is happening. So again, cold reading. And not getting a chance to act with other actors, or even with recordings of other actors, because your lines are triggered by other people's so many other lines and so much other action. So really just kind of self-generating that with the guidance of the team that's on Zoom or that's at the studio with you, that experience definitely helped. But it was also great because, similar to Overwatch, and we haven't talked about this with Overwatch, but we have to, similar to Overwatch, Overwatch, the Overwatch cast are such lovely human beings, and both the experience of doing the experience of being in the game, not necessarily doing it because we didn't record together, but the experience of doing the game and all of us having that experience at the same time. And some people were more experienced in the industry than others. Obviously, we had Crispin Freeman and Matthew Mercer and all those folks, but some of them it was our first video game. And the way that we were able to exist in the world brought us together, as well as connecting us to the community. And I think the same had happened for the original people who started Apex Legends, and then I got to get dropped into it. And so having a sense of, oh, these particular games have this lovely internal community too. These people who are creating this thing and sharing in the experience of sharing it with others. And, thanks to Overwatch, I met my best friend Carolina, who, talk about changing your life. The only other relationship that I have had in my life that changed my life as much was meeting my husband. And having someone like that come out of an experience like that, and having that relationship come out of that, what a special thing. And I know that folks in Apex as well are very close to each other, and we're a tight group. And so, yeah, that's been another lovely thing of kind of getting dropped, just like from the dropship in Apex, kind of getting dropped into that cast when they had already started the game.
And it's kind of like the aftermath as well, like Carolina, like the freaking videos that you all share are just
of us being stupid.
It's just the extra features that you need.
It's just us turning a camera on what was already happening, which is us running around the world being stupid.
Wonderful.
And I do have our relationship and conventions to thank for the fact that I did get to arm wrestle Chris Hemsworth, and one of the great joys of my life. I did let him win, which is fine.
Gave him a free pass.
Freebie. But if we had a rematch,
yeah, take him.
I was going to say I've been working out, but we know that's not true.
Just take him down. It's fine. It's fine. So speaking of connections, we were wondering if Rampart and Symmetra met, would they get along? What would they do together?
I think it's either going to go great or horrible. It's one or the other.
Match made in hell, match made in heaven.
Yeah, because they could be very complementary in the sense that maybe Rampart could get Symmetra to loosen up a bunch, and Symmetra could maybe make Rampart a little bit
polish.
Yeah, give her a way that she could sort of you don't have to turn it off all the time, but if you go into this situation, you might want to tone it down a little bit. And they would have, I think, very complementary kits and abilities and all of that. But or Rampart could drive Symmetra crazy. And it would be that direction. It wouldn't be Symmetra driving Rampart crazy, because Rampart would just be unflappable in that situation of oh no, I'm gonna mess with this chick. But yeah, it's much like opposites potentially attract in relationships or not. I feel like it would be the rom-com. That's what it would be. I've just decided it's gonna be like a normal rom-com where they have the meet cute, where they hate each other, and then all of a sudden they fall in love with each other, but they wouldn't. They could fall in love with each other. Who up? But and then they become friends.
Love this.
I feel like
in the spirit of collaboration, let's get this going.
It's a rom-com. Okay, companies, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get that in the world.
Yeah. Would love that.
We got Auntie Marvel to make, and we've got this meet cute rom-com to make with Rampart and Symmetra. Let's do it.
Okay, so now The Last of Us, which honestly, when you want to talk about acting in games, The Last of Us has to be mentioned somewhere in there.
Yeah, so my experience of The Last of Us actually happened well after it had already been out for a while. But it completely changed my understanding of what video games could be. And I understand that, when it came out, it was the exact same thing. People were like, what is this? How? And I just don't think I had any, I didn't have a concept of how powerful a game could be in a from a storytelling perspective. The cutscenes in that game were a movie, right? You were watching a movie, but then you were also getting a chance to be that hero and have that gameplay. And I, being terrible at video games, I was all about the cutscenes. Give me the cutscenes. I'm gonna try to make it through to the next scene. That was my gift.
Yeah,
that was my present.
I mean, it's a scary game. Let's be real. Clickers are freaking.
They are terrifying. But of course, I was just get out of the way. I want to watch Troy and Ashley. I got to see this. I don't want to find out what's happening with Ellie. So yeah, it was it. It's funny because I'm sort of speechless because I don't even know how to convey what a sea change that was for me. Because coming from a theatrical and cinematic background, I thought the things were still very different. And it was the first time that I realized, oh no, these are worlds coming together. You can definitely scratch this itch of yours in this field. You don't have to jump from thing to thing. You can. You're absolutely free to. But in this medium, you can have some of the most satisfying performances and watch some of the most satisfying stories that I've ever watched. This is an option for you. It was almost as big a mind shift as when I was in high school and I was like, oh, wait, I can be an actor for like a living? People do this? That moment of watching that. And thankfully at the time, you know, I had met Troy through the convention circuit and just love him and love how committed to the art of acting and game creation he is. And the way he speaks about it and the way he thinks about it is a wonder. And then meeting Ashley and then getting to play games with her, and you know, so knowing what happened behind the scenes, but also getting to see this incredible piece of art. It was definitely a huge mental shift for me, and a shift in my trajectory that started with my head before it happened, which I'm really grateful for, because everything else in my career has been like, oh, I'm going to get to do the thing, and then I'm doing the thing, and then I learn about it as I go, rather than like, oh, wow, that's out there. I want to do more of that.
Is there like a particular moment or a particular character that resonated the most with you?
Whoa. I mean, both of them, both
Joel and Ellie.
Joel, thank you, because I think of them as Troy and Ashley.
I know.
I just can't. I can't
know,
do
they're
it.
inseparable.
They are inseparable. Just their relationship, that very complex relationship to me was the most extraordinary thing. And then stepping forward to The Last of Us Part 2, Laura Bailey just like coming in and knocking it out of the park. Yeah, that it's the obvious things. I feel like what I'm saying is not a surprise to everybody else. Like everybody's gonna be like, duh, that of course that's a big deal. But it was a big deal in terms of what I understood could be accomplished in games, and what I understood the level of artistry that could go into game performance, not just game creation, but game performance, not just development. Also, and again, I hope this doesn't sound like duh to everybody listening, but you know, being in theater and TV and film, you are limited by what you look like. You're limited to the roles you get to play by what you look. Luckily for me, it wasn't a huge factor in theater, but certainly in film and television. And to know that, no, it's your face, so it's your expressions, but it can look like a completely different human being. I understood that in terms of VFX in movies like Avatar and whatever, but to see it in games and to have that be in a world that I was already a part of, it's really, really special, you know. And I love the fact that Troy is not Harrison Ford, he's Indiana Jones right now, but he's also, but you see, like, you can watch videos of him. It's definitely his face, and it's that person. You get the essence of that person, even if it looks like a completely different person. And I love that. I love the option of that.
You've watched the show as well.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the show?
Even way before this particular experience of something moving from one medium to another, I had for many decades felt like if you're going to create something based on an IP that is in an existing medium already, you've got to, whatever medium you choose to recreate it in, you have to do it in a way that is unique to that medium and unique to the ways that medium can tell stories that the other medium cannot. You know, you can't just recreate the exact same thing in the new medium. I think it's why The Lion King was so exceptional in theater. It was a very different experience than the movie, right? With the puppetry and the sort of
so cool.
visceral feelings that you had. Same thing with The Last of Us, the TV show. Like, when you have such a beloved property that has such a loyal community who the bar is very high with them, right? You've got to do something exceptional, but also different in a way that serves the story, serves them, and serves all of the people who haven't ever seen it before and have no point of reference. That is a lot to expect. Those are huge shoes to fill, a high bar to reach, and they far exceeded it. I think what they did with that show was kind of, to me, the perfect example of what I'm talking about, okay, we're going to use this new medium and we're going to tell the same story, but we're going to do it this way. So you're going to recognize it, and you can recognize in the show, if you played the game, you're like, oh my God, that's exactly the same background, or that's exactly the same. Oh, that's so cool. That's so similar. It's a touchstone for you, and you get excited by that recognition. But then you have episodes like, what is it, episode 3, I think it was, with two characters you've never met and you will never see again, or actually, I do think we see one of them again. But that story that gets told in that episode.
Is it the Nick Offerman?
Yeah.
That is gorgeous.
The story that gets told in that episode within this world that absolutely 100% could exist in the world of The Last of Us. That was something that they could do there that they didn't do in the game.
Yeah, they completely rewrote Nick Offerman's character to have had this experience instead. But it was so authentic. It was so authentic, so true, so honest. You didn't feel like you were fed anything. You didn't feel like there was anything being pushed. It was just literally, this is a love story, and it exists within Last of Us.
Yeah, and it exists within this horrible, terrifying landscape, which also is another beautiful thing about so many of these stories that we see that are sort of post-apocalyptic, but really about the human experience. Like, I used to hate anything zombie related. I was like, I'm not interested. This is not my jam.
Yeah.
And then I played Outbreak Undead, the TTRPG, and I understood, like, oh, this is about the human experience of what's happening in the world. And then The Last of Us, both the movie and the show, both the game and the show, did such a great job of like, no, this is the human experience of it. That's one part of it. That's one part of it. That's the foundation of where everybody's telling the stories, but it is not the story.
So when is the Overwatch Arcane experience happening?
Dude, you're asking the wrong person, because my body is ready. And look, I already spend all day in high heels, so I am uniquely
You're already
suited.
ready.
I am uniquely suited to play Symmetra. So let's go.
I'm ready. The heels are ready.
Yeah, I have been training my whole life for this.
Yeah. I think it would be amazing. I mean, in this day and age, in this climate for games, I think we are seeing such a great renaissance for game adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the ones that are they missed the mark a little bit. That's fine. But the ones that are selling it really well and understanding what we need. So we need Overwatch.
I'm all right. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm ready.
But I mean, even with these actors that are, these Hollywood actors and stuff, it's still so important for actors who are delivering these performances behind the games to be at the forefront. And like, freaking hell, Pixel Pack. Like, what was it like to be a part of this? Of course.
First of all, the fact that Neil spearheaded it is not surprising to me. And also, there are a handful of people who, if they ask me to do something, I'll say yes first and ask what the thing is later. And Neil is one of them. And it was, as soon as he said what he was trying to do, and really didn't even give me the full breadth of it, but just kind of the short log line of it, I was like, yes, I'm in. Because, again, the same way we were talking about earlier, that people don't necessarily appreciate the positive or the positive effects of gaming. I think a lot of people don't realize that the performances that are happening in games are as unique and layered and powerful as anything you might see on television or in a film. Also, those actors are not just using their voices, they are using their whole bodies. Whether we are doing performance capture or not, there's a physicality to it. And it's important that's why I prefer to call it game performers rather than voice actors. Because you can't call the actors in The Last of Us voice actors. They did all of the stuff. You can't call all the people in Baldur's Gate voice actors. They were in the volume way more than they probably had a chance to just be in the booth just recording audio. So yes, so grateful that Neil spearheaded this and we were able to put it out there into the world, and put it out there into the world through Entertainment Weekly, which was great too, because again, finding an outlet that would help us to highlight this is where these performances belong. We don't need, it'd be great if it, got us all film and TV jobs also, but really it's about respecting this medium and the performances behind them. And also, I firmly believe that when you're lifting up the actors and the performers behind the game, you are also lifting up the devs because they are as much a part of this performance as anything. Sometimes people think of the performance and the performer and the game devs as completely separate. And sometimes in the process they are. But getting a chance to talk about how integrated they could be, that's important too. Because I think, I know, and certainly for myself, but also for many of my friends who are in the Pixel Pack and outside of it, we want to be a part of the process sooner. And not because we want control, but we want to offer up options. So many times I'll go in to voice a game or voice a character, and the devs will be like, "Oh, it's so great to finally hear her voice. It really brings it all together." And you're like, "We could have done this together earlier, and I would have absolutely." We absolutely could have made this even more collaborative. And who knows what we would have found. I did a game called Stray Gods that Troy directed, that was a musical video game. And Austin Wintry, who did the music for Journey, he did all the music. And David Gator, who did Dragon Age, wrote it. And our first session recording that, I played the role of Medusa, and our first recording session was the first one that they did at all. And the level of collaboration that we were able to have because of it, and the level of involvement and investment that I got to have, was so special to me, and hopefully to them, because we found it together. And it's just, it's a really fun process when we can be a part of it that way.
We have Tales of Kenzera Zhao, because I think that this is a nice link in the sense of you have Abu, who we've had on the show, who's an actor creating a game. It's really impressive to see, so many actors going into this dev role. So tell me about what your connection was to this game.
I talked a little bit about how The Last of Us was a game changer for me in terms of how I could think about being a game performer and the storytelling abilities and what we could convey and what we could do thanks to technology, how we could make this exceptional thing. One of the beautiful things about Tales of Kenzera Zhao is the story of the story, right? It's the story behind the story. And as my career has continued on, I'm always looking for new ways to be a part of the development process, whether it is being a producer on TV shows or TTRPG shows, or, being a writer and an author and all of those things. And watching him being such an exceptional television actor already, but also connecting with this very personal story, and saying, you know what, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it because I care about it, and because it means a lot to me, and because I think the world needs it. And the experience of playing that game, but knowing that story underneath, it's so much more elevated by that. And also, it opened up my eyes to well, of course we can tell our personal stories through games. We're talking about connecting with our players and sharing worlds with them, and inclusion, and not inclusion in terms of the term that we use out in society, but literally being included. In our lives, face to face, we tell each other stories to be included, and we share our own stories to connect with each other, right? That's what we do. Why not use this extraordinary medium to be able to do that with a larger community, and share these stories with a larger community in a way that isn't banging them over the head with the message, or necessarily like a documentary just telling them about the story, but giving them this sort of adjacent experience that helps them move through it. And it's not the only game recently that has sort of done that for me, but certainly it's. I mean, Abu being such an exceptional human being to begin with, and also I feel like he and I have that very similar, like, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out because it's an option. And I care about it. Like, I love that kind of scrappiness and ownership over, no, I'm going to make sure this story gets out here, and I'm going to do it because this is the medium that I am connected in. And this is the medium that I shared with my father, which is another, just such a beautiful story behind that. But the chance to tell our stories, and not necessarily in a cinematic Last of Us kind of way. I feel like I've seen, like, there was Tales of Kenzera, there was Venba, which came out.
So good.
So good. The only video game I've ever been able to play with my mother. And just being able to share that experience of life with other people through a game. In the same way, I feel like, fantasy and sci-fi can talk about social political issues that we are experiencing today, but they can talk about it in a world that's just adjacent to our real world. So the information and the messages and the questions can kind of permeate us a little bit easier because we're not so defensive about, like, oh, I don't want to talk about that or whatever. It's part of the story. It's part of our stories. I just wrote a D&D adventure for D&D Beyond, and I wanted to do the same thing. You want to include sociopolitical or personal questions about humanity and human interaction, but in a way that people are playing with it, so it's a safe space for them to explore, right? And Tales of Kenzera Zao does that. Venba does that. You look at the VR game about the Cambodia, Stay Alive, My Son does that in this beautiful VR way. A chance to tell our own personal stories by developing games. That changed me. That changed me in a way because there is a very personal story that I want to tell, and I hadn't figured out what medium felt the best. And it was literally talking to Abu and then playing Tales of Kenzera that made me go,
this could be a possibility.
This is the way to honor that experience and share it with other people in a way that's not just me telling the story or turning it into a separate experience, but us experiencing it together. So that's on the horizon, along with the 900 other things that I'm working on right now.
I love that you played Venba with your mom, though.
Oh my gosh.
What was her? How did she
first of all, though, I will say, because the first thing that you have to do, like the first sort of challenge, is making idlis.
And I spent so long on that.
My mom was like, that's not how you do it. But I, in fairness, I'm sure that's how some people do. But of course, my mom, the same way, she's a surgeon. Every time we tried to watch ER with her, she's like, that's not how they do CPR.
Love it.
So I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
we're gonna. But
we already know that there's gonna be pit pocket. There's gonna be
moments.
Nitpicking.
There's gonna be moments, but it's still a connection. There's still and it's very much similarly to how it is in Venba. Like my mom and I cooking together. And in the game, it's that little. It's that relationship that keeps you tight, and also just the fact that it's a cozy game, which I had never really clocked the concept of cozy games. Again, it was Marisha, because I don't remember what I was doing, but I was listening to a sort of stream that she was doing where she was answering questions, and people were asking her what is your method of stress release. What do you do to handle all of the responsibility? And she said, cozy games are a huge thing to me. And I texted her immediately and I'm like, so what I got from your conversation there is that I'm doing it all wrong. It's not yoga and meditation that I need to get into. It's cozy games. And she was like, cozy games are life. Here are the games you need to play. I will fund a Switch if you need one. I'm like, no, we're good. And sure enough, like Venba, what a peaceful way to be able to experience games. A low lift, but a very high return.
Outbreak Undead.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is this game like for somebody who's never heard of it before? Like, what is it?
So Outbreak Undead is a tabletop role-playing game set in the zombie apocalypse, which is not a setting that I ever thought I would enjoy, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later when we talk about one of the games that that also affected me. But my connection to Outbreak Undead really is through the experience of how I got to play it, which is going back to Marisha and why I call her my patron saint of gaming, because it was the end of the dark days of gaming. And they were still with Geek and Sundry, and she said, hey, there's a show that my friend Ivan is running the game, and I think you'd really be good at it, and I think you'd really like it. Would you be interested? And it sounded fun, so I was like, yeah, sure. And then they showed me the game system, and I was like, sure, this is cool. Oh, wait, there's permadeath in this one. There's no, like, D&D resurrection, raise dead. Like, that's not an option. Okay, well, I'm going to be the girl who, like, is off the island. Okay, whatever. And so I went into it with this sort of like, I want to play this game. But look, I hate elimination games. I hate them with the intensity of 1,000 suns. Like, I dislike people getting kicked out of getting to play. But the stakes in this game with the permadeath and the reality of it and getting to play a tabletop role-playing game with people taking the story so seriously, getting to sit at that table. That was my first time, even before coming back to D&D as an adult, that was my first time playing one of these games with that level of intensity and that level of care and that level of storytelling commitment with people. And I did not know, not only did that experience could be like of playing the game could be so special, but that it would be this incredible amalgam of stuff that I only thought that I could get satisfaction through TV from. I could do this in a tabletop game. And, I went from kind of like joking around before the first episode. Oh, I'm going to be dead by the end of the first episode. Oh, you guys. And by the end of the first episode, I was like, no one will die on my watch. Like, this is going to happen. And the excitement with which I got to drop into this world and share it with the other players was so wonderful. I still to this day call Ivan my terror monger because never in my life have I been so just in love with a friend who was trying to kill me that much. So he's my precious terror monger. But that was really my first experience coming back to TTRPGs and coming back to them as a form of entertainment. Not even back to them. That was because it was new since I had played D&D as a kid. This whole kind of genre of Critical Role and Dimension 12, like that was brand new to me. I didn't know that existed. So getting to share that with the world, so you're performing, but you're not really performing because you're in it and you're having the experience. And there was one scene, one moment I remember from, I think it was the second season, where my character has a little bit of a spirit journey gone wrong. And getting to tell her backstory of the moment that really, the tragic moment that really changed her. And I just remember telling a story that I had never told before. No one had written it. No one wrote the lines. Telling the story that I never wrote before, just telling it like it was mine, which is acting. That's what acting is telling people, doing the thing, being the thing, sharing the story in a way that it is yours, right? But in TTRPGs, it actually is yours. You're writing it. You're creating it. It was the thing that hooked me back into that world. And from then on, as soon as Marisha and Ivan and the gang called up and said, come do this show with Critical Role that they were doing, one of the first not live play shows they did, that I was like, yeah, I'm hooked. I'm done. This is my happy place. I really want to do this as much as physically possible. And I do think also, the last thing is, I think by virtue of it being entertainment and streamed, it's different than a home game because you have to be aware at the same time as you're playing the game and you're playing the story and all of this, you have to be aware that of that give and take that we just talked about with a Critical Role in D20, that you have to be aware of that the same way you are in the theater, the same way you are in television. There's no camera to tell people where to look, so you have to help them and you have to help your fellow players tell the story in a way that allows the audience to experience it as a consistent entity. So yeah, it was changed things a little bit.
Yeah.
Change things just a little bit.
Yeah.
And also now we in our house in the real world are prepared for the zombie apocalypse. You know,
You got everything packed.
No, seriously, right before lockdown happened, my husband was like, "Oh, we better stock up on supplies." I was like, "Baby, I've had supplies down there for years in storage. We could live down there. All we need to do is install, you know, a toilet in storage and we could live down there. We're fine. We're prepared."
So not only does this game offer a fun experience, it also teaches you
real life prepping without any kind of weirdness.
Yeah,
no,
completely.
totally. Absolutely.
And in the vein of actors taking on games as well, we also have Date Everything.
Oh my goodness.
Which you're a part of.
Yes.
Like freaking hell. Like,
my dear sweet Robbie Damon.
Robbie Damon and Ray Chase
Yeah.
together making a game that includes a load of other actors who are ridiculously talented as well. So when did you get the call about this? Like what happened?
Oh gosh, time is confusing, so I cannot tell you when. I have no concept of when that, like,
all of a sudden you're a part of Date Everything.
Everything blurs. All of a sudden, Robbie, who is among those people who, if you ask me to do something, I will say yes, and then I will ask what it is later. You know, just said we were making a game and we're going to give you a call and hopefully you'll do it. And I'm like, of course I'll do it. It's you. Yes, I will do it. And then learning the conceit of the game and how silly it is and how fun it is after doing some of these like really like serious things, you know? Just, I love the idea. I love them. Everything about it. Like, I want to play it. I'm ready to play it. I'm ready to go.
I'm so looking forward to this game. And I think, you know, everybody involved seems amazing.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Well, it's also a testament to the love and goodwill that Robbie and Ray have put out there in the world that so many people in this community wanted to, like, jump to the call. He's again, such a great example of the most talented people also being the kindest and most generous and most fun to hang out with. I'm really, really grateful that I have strategically built a life where, because I don't get to hang out with my friends socially because there's no time, because we're working all the time, we create ways to work together. Because that's the people that I want to work with, and they just happen to be the most talented people too. And I love that Robbie and Ray created this opportunity for all of us to be a part of it.
Considering all of your gaming choices, you know, you have D&D, you have Tales of Kenzera, you have Last of Us, you have Outbreak Undead, you have Overwatch. Like, what do all of these gaming choices, these games that made you, say about you?
Oh, what a great question. It really is a great question, though, and I'm very glad you asked it, because when I got the call and you guys, you know, sent the instructions that I was supposed to pick the 5 games that changed my life the most, I got very nervous and I was like, this is too hard. I can't do it, because I also don't have as much of a variety of games that I've played in my life as some of my peers who have been like hardcore gamers their whole life. But much like there have been through lines in my own life, the thread that connects them all is the journey of stepping into the power of being the hero and then sharing that with other people so that they can see it too. And that very much feels like the journey that I have had in my life. And it's what fuels me through every day, is knowing that something that I have made that is inside me, it's not my place to judge it. Again, just like auditions, not my place to judge it, but something that's inside me can be of service to someone else, something creative inside me. Today, someone out there needs it. It's not this like, oh, I'm putting myself on a pedestal, it's needed. It's just like, it might be a conversation with a grocery store clerk. It might be anything, but someone out there needs it. And because I am the hero of my own story, I'm the person who has to get out there and do it. I don't care if I don't want to get out of bed. I don't care if I'm in a bad mood. I don't care about all of that. Someone else needs me. And that's part of being a hero, is stepping out there and putting yourself out there in scary situations, in situations you don't want to, but doing it for the greater good, right? And also owning the power for your own happiness and your own well-being and taking care of yourself, owning that. Because for so many years, I think I was afraid of being the hero of my own story, because it meant, oh God, it meant I was responsible for being depressed. It meant I was responsible for this, but I never clocked, just like I never clocked it until I DM'd. No, you get to be in control of how happy you are. You get to decide what this story is that you are living. No one else can tell your story. You're the only person in your head telling the story that matters the most to you, and you're with yourself 365 days a year for the rest of your life. So you better tell a story you want to happen. And while that started with D&D, understanding that empowerment, it definitely, there was definitely that dip in my life that I had when I had to learn how to reclaim that. And because I had lost it, I think it meant so much more to me when I reclaimed it. And I wanted everyone to have it. It's why I wrote my book. It's every performance that I give, no matter how small, it feels like that's kind of underneath this is boy, I hope this gives something to someone. So I think that's the through line. I think that's what they've all meant to me. That this life is yours. This story is yours. And you can absolutely play your story like a game. It doesn't have to be a drama. It doesn't have to be a tragedy. It can be a game, this whole life, and you can share it with others.
Absolutely. And tell us, where can we follow you? Where can we
you can follow me on all the socials at Sweet Anj, SWEEETANJ, 3 E's, not the actual spelling. I don't know. I'm a big rebel. I'm an Indian who doesn't care about spelling. Didn't win any more spelling bees besides that one. So Sweet Anj on Instagram, on Threads, on TikTok, on like all the places. And then you can also find me at AnjaliBhimani.com and just on the interwebs in general. You can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.